April 1945, Germany. In a liberated prison yard, 300 men waited behind wire while an American clerk handed them numbered tags instead of recording their names. Some had survived camps, marches, and factories. Some had crossed half of Europe with one thing still intact: the name their parents gave them. Captain Walter Griggs, the officer in charge of registration, told his staff, "Names slow the process. Numbers are cleaner." When a Polish prisoner protested, Griggs slapped the paper from his hand and said, "You are lucky to be counted at all." Then General George S. Patton arrived and saw men who had just been freed being numbered like cargo. Before we get into what happened next, if you want more untold stories from World War II, hit that subscribe button. The prison yard stood behind a brick factory outside a German town. The gates had been opened 2 days earlier, but the men inside still moved carefully, as if freedom might be taken back for walking too fast. They were French, Polish, Dutch, Czech, and Russian. Some had numbers burned into memory. Some had lost families, homes, teeth, hair, and years. The Americans needed records. Doctors needed to know who was sick. Transport officers needed lists. Relief teams needed names for food, blankets, and possible repatriation. Registration was not a small task, but it was the first official proof that these men had returned to the world. Lieutenant Marie Collins, an interpreter, understood that. She sat at a rough table with a pencil, asking each man his name, town, age, and language. Many spoke softly. Some had to repeat themselves because their voices had grown thin. One old man kissed the paper after she wrote his name. Then Captain Griggs took over. He was efficient in the worst possible way. He saw the crowd, the mud, the languages, and the slow line, and decided humanity was bad administration. "No more full entries," he ordered. "Issue numbers." Collins looked up. "We need names. We need control. These people were controlled for years." Griggs snapped, "And if we do not organize them, we will have chaos." The new tags were cut from ration boxes. A clerk wrote numbers on them and tied them with string. Men came forward expecting to speak. Instead, they were handed cardboard and waved aside. One prisoner refused. His name was John Kowalski, a Polish schoolmaster from Lublin. He had survived a quarry camp and a winter march. He carried a small scrap of paper with his wife's name, his village, and the names of 2 sons he had not seen since 1939. He placed it on Collins's table. "My name," he said. Griggs stepped between them. "Tag him and move him." Collins said, "Captain, he has family information." Later. Jan held the paper tighter. "Please, my name is Jan Kowalski." Griggs lost patience. He struck the paper from Jan's hand. It fell into the mud. "You are lucky to be counted at all." The yard went silent. Jan bent slowly to pick up the paper. His hands shook, not from cold this time, but from humiliation. That was when Patton's jeep stopped near the gate. He had come to inspect camp conditions after reports that liberated prisoners were still waiting for transport. He entered with 2 aides and an MP, expecting hunger, sickness, and confusion. He found all of that. Then he saw the tags. Men stood in lines with cardboard numbers hanging from their coats. Some stared at the ground. Others clutched scraps of paper no one had asked to read. At the table, Collins stood rigid. Griggs held the ledger, and Jan knelt in the mud. Patton walked straight to him. "Why is that man on his knees?" Griggs saluted. "General, registration discipline." Patton looked at Jan. "Did he fall?" Collins answered before fear could stop her. No, sir. His family paper was knocked down. By whom? Griggs said, there was a minor disturbance. Patton turned. By whom? Collins said, Captain Griggs, sir. The yard held its breath. Patton picked up Jan's paper himself, wiped mud from the corner with his glove, and handed it back. What is your name? He asked. Jan straightened as much as his body allowed. Jan Kowalski. Patton repeated it. Jan Kowalski. Then he faced Griggs. Why is he wearing a number? Griggs tried to sound reasonable. Temporary control measure, sir. Names are difficult. Many languages. Bad spelling. No documents. Patton pointed to the men behind him. The Germans already made them numbers. Griggs said nothing. Patton stepped closer. You saw freed men and decided the enemy's system was convenient. Sir, I only meant to speed processing. Patton lifted one of the cardboard tags. This is not processing. This is erasing. Griggs flushed. General, with respect, names can be corrected later. Patton's voice dropped. A man who has waited 6 years to say his name does not wait because your pencil is tired. He turned to Collins. Can you record them properly? Yes, sir. How many interpreters do you need? 4 more would help. Patton looked at his aide. Find them. Then he gave the order that changed the yard. Remove every number tag. The MPs and clerks began cutting strings. Some prisoners pulled the tags off themselves, but held them uncertainly, as if afraid of doing wrong. Patton pointed to a bucket. In there. Cardboard numbers dropped one by one. Then Patton looked at Griggs. You will read each man's name aloud as it is recorded. Griggs blinked. Sir? You said names slow the work. You will learn the pace. For the next hours, Jan stood first in line. Collins wrote his name carefully. His town, his wife, his sons. She asked him to spell them twice. When she finished, Patton looked at Griggs. Read it. Griggs swallowed. John Kowalski, Lublin. Wife, Helena. Sons, Marek and Piotr. John closed his eyes. Not because the words were perfect, because they existed. The line moved slowly after that. A French mechanic, a Dutch student, a Czech carpenter, a Russian farmhand. Men who had been treated as labor, weight, and waste became names again under a gray German sky. Griggs read until his voice cracked. When he tried to hurry, Patton stopped him. Again, like his mother might hear you. By dusk, the first 300 men were registered by name. Numbers remained only as secondary file marks, never as substitutes. Food lists, medical lists, and transport lists were rebuilt from names first. Griggs was removed from prisoner registration that night. The report said he had used degrading procedures against liberated persons and interfered with proper identification. He was sent to a rear administrative post pending review. Jan reached a hospital, then a displaced persons center. Months later, he learned his wife had survived, though one son had not. The paper he had picked from the mud stayed folded inside his coat until the day he was reunited with Helena. Collins remembered the yard for the rest of her life. She said Patton's order was not only administrative, it was a reversal. The prisoners had entered the line as numbers and left it as people. The story was not only about registration, it was about what freedom sounds like after years of being reduced to less than a man. For Jan, liberation was not complete when the gate opened. It came when someone powerful insisted that his name be spoken in full. Was Patton right to make Captain Griggs read every name aloud? Or should he have removed him immediately before the prisoners had to hear his voice again? Let us know in the comments, and subscribe for more untold stories from World War II.